It's almost Thanksgiving, and so who wants to type in the Q&A either who are you looking forward to seeing over the holiday, or favorite side dish / recipe thing that you make, preferably with link, but even just what you like to make. Feel free to share Thanksgiving plans in the Q&A. Ooh, stuffed delicata squash with wild rice dried. Ooh, yum. Jen, that sounds fantastic. So, Thanksgiving kit from Via. Is that like a kit for spaghetti and meatballs on Thanksgiving, which would totally work for me? Oh, green bean casserole. Do you put those little dried onion ring things on the top? That's what my family would always have. Mushroom soup and classic. You know, our latest thing is little frozen French cut green beans. Feed him to the dog, put a few in his dinner and a few in his breakfast to help him eat a little less puppy food. And he thinks they're treats and he loves them. Is there a good recipe, Jen Daigle, that you can share with us? I wonder. Or is it just up here? Yes, those are Mass Academy students on the screen, Julie. Looking very happy. Ooh, smokehouse turkey. Ciderita. Oh, okay. I might have to get you to send me that one off on the side, Julie, the recipe for that. I'll take any kind of a Rita. I do have both cider and good tequila, so probably shouldn't talk about that on here though. Not today, I haven't. Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're posting about favorite Thanksgiving dish to make or pick up, or who you're going to see at Thanksgiving that you're excited to see. To post your answer in the Q&A. Let us know what you're looking forward to cooking. Or my husband, God bless him, who does most of the cooking, just bought a sous vide, I don't even know what you call it, machine thing that you put in the water to heat up the water to do sous vide. It's very fancy. And we did a test of a turkey breast the other night, and it was really delicious. Hi, everyone. Posting about, Frangelico liquor pumpkin cheesecake. Yes. Like that. Excellent. This is great. I wasn't even thinking I was going to get all these great recipes out of our conversation today. So got about 4 or 5 minutes till we start. So feel free to share your favorite holiday dish for Thanksgiving, or who is coming to dinner. Who's coming to dinner? Or yeah, already gotten by your Thanksgiving dinner. Okay. Just gonna do one little thing here. I'm going off camera for 1 sec. I'll be right back. Ooh, turkey pie. Yum. What does that mean? Is that like a pot pie, Jessica? Turkey pot pie kind of a thing? Sounds delicious. So we're posting our favorite Thanksgiving dishes and or who we might be getting ready to see on the holiday, who we're excited to see. Any new grandkids out there? Any new, assemble from leftovers. Cindy, that's probably right. But the next day stuff is the best. And I don't know about y'all, but right now I'm obsessed with bread from Crust. I don't know if anybody goes to Crust Bakery just up the road from us here or down the road, depending on which way you go, because there's two of them, but their bread is awesome. So I'm thinking turkey sandwiches on that bread, maybe open face with gravy over. Like that's going to be the good thing right there. Hey, everybody, welcome. Nice to see everyone. We'll get started just in a minute or two. I'll let folks filter on in. Hey, everybody out in YouTube land. Nice to be with everybody. Liz, you're funny. Going to my cousin's house, but I'm going to get my own stuff for leftovers like that. Bourbon infused Cool Whip sounds like always a plus. I don't know what meat stuffing is either. Oh my gosh, I'm clearly missing out. All right, anyone who wants to send me recipes, I will always take them. I'll give them to my husband and have him make them. But no, I'm kidding. I help on the holiday. Pumpkin bread. I did buy some pumpkin at the store this weekend to think about pumpkin bread, or I just was looking at a pumpkin tart recipe that looked excellent. But I'm always a sucker for pumpkin bread. It's my favorite. Okay, it's 3:00. I would like to give folks maybe one more minute. We've got almost 200 folks on the Zoom, and I'm sure there's folks on the YouTube as well. Welcome to you. We'll get started in about 1 minute. In the meantime, there's lots of good stuff about what people do for Thanksgiving. Boston Market, I'm not surprised to hear they're pretty good. Probably reasonably priced too. So many great places around here to order things from. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Okay. It is 3:01, and I think we should get started. Nice to see everyone here. And welcome to anybody watching online as well, watching on YouTube, I mean. And gonna do a little bit of a mixed presentation today, some from me and some also from our mental health and well-being task force folks, to make sure everybody's up to speed on what's happening there. And, so I'm excited to just dive in with all of you. Here on the cover, as somebody already pointed out in the Q&A. And again, I send you to the Q&A if you want to post a question, and either we'll try and answer it typed or live, or maybe even both. So feel free to weigh in and share your thinking. These are Mass Academy students using our wonderful red chairs, which now I think are such a fixture on the campus, right? I think they're always going to be here now. And I really, really hope everybody got outside this afternoon, or if not, gets outside immediately after we're done here, because it is just a stunningly beautiful day. And I don't know about you, but I'm always kind of looking ahead to say, like, when's going to be the last really nice day? And I think honestly, it might be today. So get outside and enjoy some sunshine, and it's warm. Okay, let's go to the next slide and jump in. So starting as we always do with our North Star. And, we put this together during COVID, but I have to say, given the challenges we're facing now around student mental health, around wellness and thriving for our whole community, I think it still aligns and it still speaks to where we are more than ever in terms of what we're after. First and foremost, keeping our community safe and healthy, keeping really that at the center. And we've been talking about that for 2 years now, since COVID has been around, or not quite 2 years, but I think that's going to stay with us in ways that are going to be around all of our wellness and health, and also importantly, our students. And speaking of students, serving them in these unprecedented circumstances, they just seem to get more unprecedented with each passing day. And that's it's an incredible weight for all of us to bear. I know that. And so I'm so appreciative of all of you being here and continuing to put them first, supporting all of you through as you deliver on our commitments, on our mission to our students. And while we're working to keep our family together and treat everybody with care and respect, I always come back to this one because I know that in many ways we're all hurting and we're all facing challenges, and where our ability to sort of let things slide and things, I think, is lower. And so I think it's just very important that we remember that there's a human being on the other end of every comment. And so we've got to make sure that we are treating one another with the greatest care and respect. Because everyone here, all of our students, all of our faculty and staff, everyone in our community deserves that. And then continuing to work within our Worcester community as much as we can. I was just talking to Wally today about the innovation folks connecting with the broader Worcester innovation ecosystem. And it's just great to see that we're continuing to move forward, connecting with our broader Worcester community, and that our students are back traveling to project centers, helping our communities around the world. So we're continuing to push ahead on that and a real sense of normalcy. Let's go to the next slide. And before I jump into any specifics about what's been happening on campus and what's up with COVID, what's happening around mental health and well-being, what's happening with other things with other things going on, I just want to take a moment and just remind us that this is why we're here, right? Seeing these students walk across Earl Bridge, come to the stage and receive their diplomas, and the quality of the education that WPI provides and the quality of the experience that WPI provides, I believe is still unparalleled. It's certainly unparalleled in my experience in higher ed across a lot of institutions. And right now, we're facing some really challenging things. And I know at times it can feel like the ground beneath our feet is shaking, right? It doesn't feel solid right now. And I think all of us who are parents, all of us who are friends and family members know that when things seem uncertain, community matters, and having a real North Star matters. And these students, they are our North Star. And so I just wanted to take a moment to say how grateful I am to be a part of this community at this, even when times are quite challenging, because I know this community, just like I do, holds these students at the center, and that we're all, if we're tired or if we're frustrated and sad, I'm sad myself lately. It's been very difficult, but knowing that there will be these students who cross the stage in May, they will continue to thrive at WPI. We will continue to make ourselves better and to be able to serve them better. To me, that just keeps me going every single day. And I hope it does with you as well. And knowing that I'm doing that with all of you is truly a gift. So let's just remember that these students are why we're here, and we everything we're doing is about them, and we're all doing our best to serve them in this really challenging moment. So just wanted to recenter us on them. Okay, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So it's a town hall. That means there'll be a COVID update, although those I think are getting briefer and briefer. I want to turn the floor over to the leadership of our mental health and wellbeing task force to talk a bit about their work and even more that's taking place. And then we'll wrap it up just giving you a status on a few other exciting things that are happening around our strategic plan, our campaign, and things like our accreditation. So just a few other updates. So that's where we're headed today. So before we get into mental health and well-being, which I think is really in many ways the core conversation we want to be in, I just wanted to do a quick COVID check-in. So this is just one slide, and I didn't even put the histogram in here now. We still have cases on the campus, as anyone who's following this knows, but they're at a manageable level. We are, our testing program is going really well. Everybody's vaccinated at this point. Essentially, we're at almost 98% in the campus community. So we're in good shape. People are starting to get their boosters. I'm hearing more and more from folks about getting their boosters, which is great. The changes here are relatively minor, but are important for students. And just know that CERT is talking a lot these days about changes that benefit our students. And hang on one second, sorry. There we go. And so this is one. So we've made masks optional for vaccinated students in the residence halls. They were already optional when people were in their rooms, but when they were in common areas, we had students wearing masks. And look, the City of Worcester guidance says that in places of residence, masks are optional. And so we're doing that in residence halls, giving again, the more than, almost 60% of our students who live in our residential community, more flexibility in their mask wearing in their own homes, if you will. We still are under the City of Worcester mask mandate. And so that means there are the public places, like the rest of our buildings, basically, there are indoor mask mandates unless you're alone in your workspace and things like that, or performing, that is presenting. And so we continue to look at this, but given again the case levels in Worcester, I'm not seeing them removing that indoor mask mandate in the near term. I could be wrong about that, but we'll obviously keep tracking that. And as we get into spring, I'm not in too much of a rush here to change things, but the students, continue to ask about the balance of restrictions and things. And again, there aren't very many restrictions still in place. It's mostly about indoor masking and a few on gatherings in places like fraternity houses, which we'll need to, and residence halls for outside visitors and things. We'll continue to look at those things as we go forward. There is a new federal requirement that we're dealing with, which you've all seen, which is, we already had our vaccine mandate in place. So the issue is not as much about people getting vaccinated because they already were. But now the federal mandate actually requires that we upload the vaccination cards. I did it the other day myself. It's not hard. You can do it in Workday. We are extending the deadline for that to be in line with the federal deadline, which is January 18th. So, but just take a couple of minutes and do it right away if you haven't, because that's it's easy. And then we'll make sure we keep federal aid and federal funding flowing our way. And again, we're very, very well protected as a community because of the high vaccination rate. We are over 98% of employees and between 97 and 98% of students, and some still kind of international students and such getting their partial vaccination. So that's good. So even when people contract COVID, the cases aren't serious. It's not necessarily fun for some folks, like a bad flu, but we haven't had serious cases. But with the holidays and people gathering and people heading more inside in the winter, we definitely need to remain vigilant this next 4 weeks between now and the end of term, and then certainly as we'll come back from the holidays. Testing. So we're able, I believe, to get reimbursed for most of our COVID testing costs from FEMA, and they've just extended the date that they'll reimburse through April. So it's very likely, at least at the beginning of C term, that we will continue the testing protocols fairly similar to what we are now. Please just stay tuned over the holidays and such as the campus is quieter. Obviously, we understand that people may not be on campus as much. So, but as we'll get back into C-term, we'll be talking more about our testing plans going forward, even before C-term. Last thing I wanted to mention that the health team has been talking about more, which is, just being really conscious about, and I just can't imagine anybody would do this, but just saying it out loud, we need to make sure we reduce the stigma on people who unfortunately contract COVID. This Delta variant's really contagious. It can happen to any of us, and has been happening to some of us. So we need to make sure that, especially for students, this is another stressor for them at a difficult time. And so just making sure that we're, treating them like the full-fledged people they are, and just acknowledging, yeah, that's a bummer, but you're going to be fine, and we're going to help you through it. And just so much gratitude to our health and testing teams and support folks there to really help folks get through this. That's really all I'm going to say about COVID right now. I see there's a question that someone's typing an answer to, which we can come back to. But let's go to the next one. So I do want to turn things over. I'm not sure who's talking. Is it both Jean and Matt? Or maybe Jean will start, because I know there's brain pictures here. So I'm pretty sure that's, or Matt, are you starting? So special thanks to Jean King and Matt Berry for their really hard work leading the, I believe, 34-member mental health and wellbeing task force. And they're sprinting towards the finish line here. And but I wanted them to just give you an interim update on the kinds of things that they're thinking about. So Jean and Matt, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There we go. We're on screen together, Matt. There we go. So I want to begin by thanking my co-chair, Matt Barry, for all he has done to help us through this. It has been a sprint, but we're on it, and we have the best team ever. But before we jump into the update on the task force, it is hard as a neuroscientist not to put this issue into context and touch on the magnitude of the problem that we're facing. First slide, please. So Laurie's right. There's a picture of the brain, and I can't resist. The National Institute of Mental Health Disorders, which is NIH's group that actually looks at mental health, have these figures out. It's an estimated 26% of Americans ages 18 years and older. About 1 in 4 adults suffer from a diagnosable mental health disorder in any given year. And when we talk about a diagnosable mental health disorder, we're talking about distress that is significant in terms of how it changes our thinking, our emotion, our planning, our behavior, that impacts our life and all aspects of our life, our work and our relationships. That's a diagnosable mental health disorder. Distress leading to that type of significant change. Many people actually suffer from more than one of these mental health disorders at any given time. In particular, depressive illnesses that co-occur, meaning it occurs together with other illnesses like substance abuse and anxiety disorders. Next slide, please. Now, the WHO is saying, reporting out that the current understanding is that many of these disorders that we just talked about may start as early as age 14 or before, and they may go undiagnosed. But in many of our youngsters, they're already dealing with several of these disorders and combinations thereof. And why is that such a challenge to us? Well, the brain is the most complex living structure known to man. It's only 3 pounds. It's like having 2 of your fists together. That's it. That's your brain. Now, we have been struggling with this for a while. In the 1990s, then President Bush announced the decade of the brain. And he really was asking neuroscientists to help us better understand how the brain works. At the end of the decade, we had discovered a lot, but we had so much more to discover. In 2013, then President Obama, I'm just naming the presidents to say it's not a Republican or a Democratic issue, came up with a brain initiative. And he wanted to accelerate the development of applications like the technologies that we work with here at WPI to understand the brain. And even then, we discovered a lot. There was still more to discover. In 2019, which is not here on the slide, but the NIH and the NIMH came up with another initiative. It's called the HEAL Initiative. And the HEAL Initiative pumped in $940 million into research that's only focused on the opioid crisis and understanding addiction. So for many decades, we've been trying to solve this. And because this is the most complex living structure, we have had our work cut out for us. Next slide, please. So why is it so complex? And why does it misfire sometimes? After spending almost 30 years studying the brain, I have to say it remains a fascinating area, not just in terms of neuroscience, but in terms of what it is we have to contend with. So in your upper left is what a neuron looks like. It just means it's a brain cell. And again, spinning are those two fists that you put together, and that's what a brain looks like. That's what a human brain looks like. Fascinating organ. Again, to the left and lower left are those connections that we're talking about. In that three-pronged mass, there are billions and billions of cells. Billions of cells that are known as nerve cells. They're called neurons. You don't need to know that, but cells that also support them in their work are also billions and billions of cells. So think of billions and billions of something in 3 pounds, whatever the something is. But more importantly, that something that we're talking about make trillions and trillions of connections with each other. That's what that top cell looks like. All of those little sprinkling things that look like fingers are connections. At the bottom, they're connections also. Those connections are electrical and chemical. So we have electrical and chemical signals in 3 pounds, in the trillions. What stress does, it is sort of has some of these connections sort of wiggle a little bit, some of them disconnect. And that's why stress, we know, is so important when you talk about mental health and how we minimize stress and what we do in terms of getting our brains to where it needs to be. But I have to always say at this slide, the miracle is not that the brain misfires. The miracle is that several of us are lucky enough to be able to get through the day without one of these disorders. There should be no stigma attached to mental health. It's a challenge to actually have these billions and billions of cells in that small mass work on a daily basis. And for many people, if not all of us, at some point in time, this will be a difficulty to keep these cells working in the way that it needs to work. No stigma. There can be no stigma attached to any of this, because again, it's a miracle that it works when it does. Next slide, please. So that's the magnitude of the problem we're trying to solve together. And we have, again, Matt and I have the best team ever. We have 10 co-chairs of all of these different segments working with us to try to address some of these areas. So when President Neche in early October, it seems like 6 months ago, gave us the charge that we had to come up with some short-term and long-term recommendations that WPI will look at in order to act on what were many losses for us and remains a very, very sad thing for us, even on the committee, to talk about. So we know your pain, we understand your pain, we're there with you. And this group of 34 people, and I hope you could quickly take a look because some of these people you know, please tell them thank you on our behalf. Next slide, please. We pulled these into different groups based on the charge that we had from the president. And those in red, the cultural changes and engaging the community, there are many topics that fell in that area. So we combined those two together so we wouldn't have too many groups. And that's called a community group. The Center for the Wellbeing and the Wellness Programming, we combined those together and we came up with a wellness group. Academics was its own lane and it remains its own lane. And leveraging technology remains its own lane. So in the end, we have 4 groups: the community group, the well-being group, the academic group, and the leveraging technology group. And each of those groups went off and worked really, really hard on a weekly basis, several times a week, trying to come up with some short-term recommendations. And here's how we have sort of deciphered some of this. Next slide, please. So the community group that we just talked about, community input and cultural change. I'm sure you've seen a lot from them. So what they talked about and came up with as some short-term recommendations, and you'll see some of these already in play, is establishing a 24/7 mental health hotline via an answering service for hours so that students could reach someone at any time. So when you look at it, you could see that what we're thinking about was increasing access. The next thing they talked about was decreasing stigma. Again, I talked a little bit about decreasing stigma, and this group quickly said, how could we decrease stigma and what could we do to make sure that around campus, people didn't feel that having a mental health disorder was something that made them different in a negative way. Decreasing stress. We understood, again, I just talked about stress. I've been working on stress for 30 years. It's one of the areas we know that we have to decrease. And then trying to figure out how to get input from you. Next slide, please. In order to get input from you, I have to say these mental health town halls have been happening. So grateful. From early November to now, we have had so many. We have had 6 different student town halls, and you could see different students had different town halls just for them. Like those students who are off on the IQP and MQP, I'm so grateful that we are able to find a time for that to happen. The difference between graduate students and undergraduate students may be a little different. So we wanted to make sure there was a time for that to also happen. For faculty, we had 3 of these Zoom sessions. I think we still have one probably tonight happening for faculty. For staff, there's still one left on Friday, November 19th. If you haven't gone yet to staff, please come. And for the parents and family, we have had 2 of those. So again, you see there have been a lot happening in terms of the town halls. I hope you've seen those in your emails and I hope you attended. In addition to that, there has been a questionnaire that came out from Emily Perlow, I think yesterday morning around 9 o'clock. Please look in your email if you haven't seen it and address the questionnaire. Now, we know that some people are more of extroverts probably and could show up and speak, and others would like to just sort of give us information through text or through the questionnaire and surveys. So we want to make sure that independent of how you want to tell us what your needs are and how best we could help you, please use one of these forums to do that. Next slide, please.
Actually, I'd just like to add regarding those. You may have noticed on the previous slide, there's another group that we've been soliciting input from via other means, and that's alumni. So there's also been directed outreach to alumni. Didn't do a town hall that didn't seem like the right fit, but we're also soliciting their thoughts as well.
And they've been very able to tell us exactly what they've been thinking. So yes, thank you, Matt. The wellness group, they quickly jumped into this and we can't thank them enough to get in the Be Well Together Day. They had like 2 weeks to do that and they did a fabulous job. For those of you who were on campus that day or attended lunch, they really talked about reflecting, relaxing, reconnecting, and re-energizing. And there were pieces of all of those on campus. And I have to say, it is our first one. And I know there are different ways people are saying it's only one day. We totally get it. It was just to find a way to sort of reconnect. And I got to have lunch with people I normally don't have lunch with. So I was grateful for this day to actually stop for a minute. And I know we didn't do it exactly how we wanted to do it, but we will. And this is our first effort around this. This group will now be looking at the Wellness Center. So they will be spending their time in terms of their long-term recommendations on the Wellness Center. Next up, please. The academic group, again, you're going to see a lot of the same things here. De-stressing, like how do we de-stress academics and how do we work to do that? How do we retool in ways that our faculty members will be able to retool some of what they're doing, hopefully to be less stressful to them and our students, and how to reconnect. There's a lot of reconnecting we have to do on campus. And COVID has thrown us off our game. We have to just admit, COVID threw us off a game. And both for faculty to faculty interactions, you haven't seen your colleagues haven't seen you, we haven't seen our students. So reconnecting is a big thing that the academic group will be looking at and how to do all of that. So they're looking definitely deeply about how we could do that, and we'll tell you when we're going to be doing some of that work. The next slide, please. And the last group, the Leveraging Technology group. They have been trying to figure out how to use STEM approaches as wellness tools, and we're really excited about that. We know our students are very STEM related students. Obviously, they're here at WPI. So how can we take the technologies they use every day to make sure that it's a wellness tool also, and just not just a technology to communicate or to do other things that they need to do. So they're looking at that. They're meeting with other schools. I'm really excited about benchmarking what other schools are doing. They have met with schools, so they are bringing in that sort of information to us. So there is a lot here in terms of the short-term goals. Matt will tell you a little bit about what we have done so far. But the last slide that I really want to give you a process issue about where we are. Next slide, please. So the first thing we did again in early October was just drop into the problem. This was off the top of our head. We had to make short-term recommendations as quickly as possible. With 34 people in the room, students, staff, faculty, and administrators, we had a great mix of people to think about this. These are all people who are passionate about this issue and bring their own expertise to this issue, including experiences of others. And we are able to amalgamate all of that information to get to those short-term goals. We presented those to the president. We presented that to her group that will help her make those decisions. And then we started on the Be Well Together Day. So all of that was in the first month. The second month, which we're just starting, we're doing a lot of the crosswalk, which is making sure we take your input and make sure that your input is added to the 34 people on this committee to make sure that when we make recommendations, it's not just on behalf of the 34 people, but it's 34 people and you, all of us together. So the subgroups are meeting with each other, trying to make sure if there were crosswalk that they needed to do that, meeting with community members, as we just pointed out, bringing in the survey, bringing in all the information that we could get. And I have to say, both Matt and I have gotten so many emails from so many of you. That's not in even one of these things that we just talked about. Literally every day we get an email from someone saying, here's how I could help, here's what I think. And we're so grateful for that. Obviously, we couldn't keep changing the task force, but we're grateful for all your input. And we have sent it to one of these 4 areas that we talked about in terms of the subcommittee. So next thing we wanted to do, and people are doing that right now, the crosswalk and the looking beyond, using best practices from other places. Other schools have actually dealt with this. And we're looking at how they dealt with it, what they learned, so that we don't have to relearn the same lessons, and how we could take what they have learned and incorporate it into what we're doing. And the things that they have found as challenging, how do we approach those challenges so we make sure they're not a challenge for us? The next step for us is doing a retreat. We're doing what we call a deep dive. And again, the purpose is to amalgamate your input with our input, with all of the things we have found out from other schools and other areas and the best practices wherever we could find them, to pull them together to make these long-term recommendations. So the output, we will be done by December 15th, and we'll present that to the president and the committee of what these long-term recommendations look like. But even before we got there, we have some recommendations that got materialized into others. So I really want Matt to talk to you a little bit about those. Matt?
Thank you, Lynn. If we could go ahead and move to the next slide. Thank you very much. So Jean has walked you through some of our initiatives that we took on at the task force level, some of the deliverables from that, such as the Be Well Together Day, the first of many Be Well Together days. And I'd like to speak about, I'm wearing 2 hats when we're addressing the issue of mental health and well-being on this campus. So as part of the task force, but also in my role at the SDCC. And so a lot of the recommendations that have come through the task force have been about, delivering care, delivering support to students. And I'll like to talk a little about some of the things that we've been doing at the Student Development Counseling Center to try to meet the needs. So we were able to act quickly earlier in the month, earlier in the semester, in the month of September. We were able to add temporary counselors. So those are folks who sort of answered the call very quickly. We got them in. They've been meeting with our students. They're putting in hours. They are still with us to this day. And so they've been doing it. And that bought us a little bit of time to conduct our searches to make full-time hires to our team, to increase the size of the team more permanently. The first of those full-time hires happened on, she started on November 1st. Her name's Kelia. She's wonderful. She's got a full caseload already. And getting acclimated to everything we do here. And we've just made an offer that was accepted to another counselor who, with her current commitments, will be joining us in January, but she was the right candidate and the right hire. And we're very pleased that she's going to be joining us as well. So we are building out the team so we can address the clinical needs of the students who come to us. One of the big pieces of feedback that we've heard, and this was referenced in prior slides as well, is students saying, we want to have access off hours to a counselor. And they've been clear, we don't want to have to route that through police. There's some students who don't mind, there's some students for who it's a barrier. And we heard it loud and clear. And so looking at what other universities, other counseling centers have done, my director, Charlie, has reached out and reviewed the options, and we are working with a company called Protocol to provide that off hours counseling access. We will still have SDCC counsel on call that now, like through Protocol, they'll tag us in as appropriate. They can tag campus police as appropriate, but that'll be what students can reach out to directly. They can talk to a counselor through the Protocol service. That will start in C-term. That is actually the accelerated timeline on Protocols, and we set it up with them to launch as quickly as possible, and the setup will take until then, but that's when they're going to launch, is in C-term. We've also heard that for a lot of students, they want to access us, but the fact that for scheduling traditionally has meant picking up a phone or talking to someone in person, that has felt like a barrier for our students with some of their anxieties. So we have been working on building online scheduling. We hit some delays with that, and the folks who are building that have gotten pulled away to work on some other things. That includes me, but we are working on that, and that will be coming. It's just been a bit delayed from what we had initially hoped. The community reached out and said, we need training, we need awareness, we need to understand what's going on with people and how to notice when things are going wrong, how to support people. And so hopefully many of you who are on attending right now have also gotten the chance to take part in one of these recognizing and responding to student distress workshops that we've been running. We've been doing this program for years, but never with this kind of frequency. So some of these we have launched and said, we're announcing these time slots. Anybody in the community, come and fill these up. And others have been by request. Certain departments, offices, student organizations have reached out and said, hey, can you come in and do that program for us? We've done 12 of them this semester. We have another 3 already scheduled. I think another 2 that we're getting in the books for C-term. And this is a program that traditionally would run more like 3 to 4 times a year in prior years. So we've really stepped up and tried to get that information out there as much as we can. And it's been a pleasure, the ones that I've been able to lead, to engage with the members of the community who have some really insightful thoughts and questions. And I would just say, in terms of meeting the demand, clinical services, we have been working very, very hard. And the numbers that we have here, I pulled yesterday, the 17th. This is for the current academic year, starting July 1st, all the way to yesterday. We've had 2,428 individual therapy sessions at the STCC in that time. 734 students as of yesterday, different students have accessed us in some capacity or another. Our old averages, it's climbed every year. When I started, it was probably something like 500-ish students a year were accessing us. Prior years, it's been in the high 800s, low 900s numbers. We're at 734 and we haven't even gotten halfway through the year. So we're seeing unprecedented demand, and we're doing our best to meet that demand. We're trying to get students in as quickly as we can. New students, we are trying to get them in between 1 to 3 days from initial contact. That is a challenge right now, but we're really, really working hard to try to do that. So that's a little peek of what's going on at the STCC. Before we advance to the next slide, I do want to also just mention another source of support that will be coming online and will be positioned to do more of the primary prevention, proactive public health sort of work, is going to be our Center for Wellbeing, for which there has been space earmarked. There's this budget being earmarked. The interviews with the director candidates for that new office are going to be happening in the after we come back for Thanksgiving. We've got 3 candidates already for that position who are moving to the interview phase. They're really, really strong candidates too. I'm quite excited to meet them. So that's going to be coming online as well. And we're really excited for that, to have another pillar of support for the community. Let's go to the next slide, please. I would like to offer at this point just some special thanks in response to the losses that we've suffered this year. we reached out, and we have gotten really some wonderful support from the folks at specifically the Riverside Trauma Center, which is part of Riverside Community Care. They have consulted with my office. They have provided on-site grief counselors available to our students, just a walk-up basis. They've also done processing sessions with my team on the SDCC around the impact that this work has on the caregivers too. And they are folks who have been a real special ally to the WPI community in one of the worst chapters of our history in the time I've been here. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to them.
Thanks to you both. Jean, did you have anything else to add as you wrap up?
No, just saying thank you.
Thank you to you both. I hope that you all are as impressed as I am at the hard work going on. I want to give a special thanks to all 34 members of the task force, especially the folks leading the subcommittees. And you know, they didn't have to do, I don't know, 2,600 input sessions or however many you're doing. It probably feels like that. But the fact that they've done so much and so much reaching out, I think their task ahead is a tough one to get us. And we were hoping to pull in the date, and we've agreed, you know what, it's better to take a little bit more time and really process the inputs. And so by, you know, as we come to the end of B term, we will be getting the recommendations, and we are preparing to receive those. And you know, what you're seeing, I hope here, is that we're not waiting. As things come in, we're starting, right? We're moving. And in addition, even to what Matt talked about in terms of counseling center additions and Center for Wellbeing hires, we've also, we're hiring 2 additional academic advisors, an additional person who are, if you think about it, you've got the counselors on the sort of mental health and student support side, the academic advisors are sort of the academic counselors, right? And so both are really, really critical to student well-being. And so we're expanding our footprint there as well. Student activities, making sure that we've got someone here on nights and weekends to make sure that our students have plenty of opportunities to engage, interact, and socialize. So we're investing there, both with some more funding for activities and an additional staff member, and there's some other things coming down the pike as well, case manager type folks. So we're in a lot of conversations about support that's needed. I know the academic folks are working on this, on additional investments that might be needed as well. And we are here to work that with you, but not only because it's needed in this moment, but actually it's front and center in our strategic plan also, which we were already thinking about, knowing that we're needing to invest in. Now, also doing things like thinking about what are some simple tools that we can provide to faculty and others as they're interacting with students. Matt, I'm going to send you something that we got from another colleague college, where they have sort of almost like, what do you call them? The cards that you turn, with something on the front and something on the back. I don't know why I can't think of the name of what those cards are. Anyway. What?
Is it cards? I don't know.
Cards, you know.
I don't know, a 2-sided object with something on the front, something on the back. That's got, you know, info on one side and the answer on the other side, and just to kind of help folks have a very quick resource. Yeah. You know, here's who you call, here's how to approach a hard conversation, here's when you should be, you know, concerned a bit, here's when you should be really, really concerned. You know, it's taking all of the things that you provide in that training and having a sort of a quick reference for faculty and staff. We need to think about providing things like that. I'm excited to continue to work with you all to equip us all to be part of this solution, because you can't build a big enough counseling center to fix this problem, right? We've all got to be part of the solution. And so I just so appreciate everybody engaging, everybody's good ideas, and everybody being willing to come together behind those ideas that we think have the most merit, and, you know, hoping for really sort of science-based or experience-based thinking from other institutions. We'll be carrying those things forward. And oh, by the way, it's not only about sort of student affairs and what happens outside the classroom, it's also really about what happens inside the classroom. And I think it's really important that we own that there are things in our academic program that we need to be willing to look at and consider adjusting, not throwing out completely, but adjusting to make sure that we're really putting the health and well-being of our students at the center.
And yes, John McNeil, it's flashcards. Thank you for sending me that. That was the word I was looking for, flashcards. Okay. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Matt. And good luck to you as you continue down this road. And we really look forward. We'll have you back at a future town hall so you can share the findings and recommendations of the group with the whole community. So thanks. I want to just very quickly, I know we're running out of time a bit. But I do want to just share a few more things. So as I said, you know, the work that we're doing on student mental health and well-being, on really creating a community where everyone thrives. That's what we have been talking about for a long time with our work in DEI, with our work in mental health. This is really not only about surviving, it's about thriving. And I know that feels far away right now, but darn it, I am not letting go of that as a goal. That is what we're after. That's what we're going to work together towards. And so as you look at our strategic plan, which now is officially our strategic plan, because the board unanimously and enthusiastically approved it at their meeting at the end of October. So here is, and this is a shorthand version. I'm going to actually post in the chat to everyone, which I think you can all see that. Hopefully you get that. That's the link if you want to go online and actually read all the words, which, you know, we got a ton of input from folks. We did some tweaking based on your input, but here are the goals. The first goal is around student well-being, access, and affordability. That well-being goal is literally the very first thing in the plan. And so that is the thing that we are coming out of the gate fast working on, investing in. We've already approved resources to go towards the Center for Wellbeing, towards other activities that are designed to increase student well-being, also to increase the diversity of our student body. We've funded and supported a group of faculty who come together to study the Black student experience at WPI. We're supporting that. And in addition, we're continuing to support increased financial aid for students to make sure that financial barriers are at least not made worse in this challenging time. So all of those things in that first goal are off and running. The middle goal, purpose-driven education and research, working sort of from the bottom up, maybe on this one, expanding our research enterprise, our scholarly work across disciplines in ways that are really aligned with global challenges, aligned with entrepreneurial opportunities. There's so much that we can do, and our research program grew so much in our last strategic plan, and we're continuing to work and invest, and we've got to continue to build out sort of our infrastructure around research to make sure that we continue to grow and succeed. Maybe not quite, well, we'll see at the rate that we have. I don't expect us to double again in the next 5 years, but I do expect it to continue to increase, which is exciting. Grad programs, where we need to really be focused and aligned with what people need to continue to advance in their careers, whether that's master's degrees in high demand fields or certificates or stackable credentials, just-in-time learnings. There's a lot of creativity and some early investment in thinking about how we go about that. And then on the undergraduate side, it's really about two big things. One is, you know what, we learned a lot during the pandemic, and how do we leverage technology smartly in our pursuit of our project-based learning WPI plan goals. So to really continue on that path. And then second, the foundation of the WPI plan has always been about solving real world problems, which by their nature are interdisciplinary. And so how do we continue to formalize and expand the kinds of skills that our students get as part of their undergraduate education? So it's about more than your major. It's about learning those human skills, global skills, cultural competencies, business skills, all of those skills that support our undergraduates being as successful as they are. And then lastly, our inclusive community. This is really about us and how we work, living our mission and values, which I'll talk about in a second, continuing to diversify our faculty and staff, and then really focusing on building your career at WPI, enhancing the development of our employees. This is something that our colleagues in talent inclusion and academics are really excited about, working with our community to provide more opportunities for employee development, whether it's developing skills you need in your current job or growing into your next one. We want to really be that great partner to you as you're growing in your career. So those are all things on our agenda in the coming 5 years. And I will just say that the teams are being formed right now, or they have been formed. If you recall, maybe a month or two ago, we sent out a request for people to volunteer, and we've made up the team. We've used a ton of folks from that. So it's not all the same folks on these teams. We're really getting people involved who maybe haven't been involved in this level before. So very excited about these teams, and you'll be hearing more about this, probably websites. So the website for the plan itself, I posted in the chat, but the teams and all that stuff, we'll be getting that stuff out to you on the web, and we'll be providing updates as we get into the next year. Right now, those teams are really thinking about vividly in 5 years what success looks like, right? And I'm excited to hear. We did some of that in the planning process, but as they're really digging in, they're doing that work from the get-go. Next slide. Thank you. So again, just reminding you, the board not only endorsed our new strategic plan, but our new mission and values. So these are now, if you look on the WPI website, WPI's official mission is this: WPI transforms lives, turns knowledge into action to confront global challenges, and revolutionizes STEM through distinctive and inclusive education, projects, and research. That's who we are and why we exist. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty animated by this mission. And I look forward to being in conversations with all of you on this campus about what does it mean to transform lives? What does it mean to turn knowledge into action to confront global challenges? What does it mean to revolutionize STEM? I think that's really in our DNA. And doing that in the modern context, I think, is a really interesting set of conversations for us to be having. We've got some initial thoughts about it in the plan, but this will continue to live and grow and evolve as we, the community, take it on. And then our values, which are listed there. I think the next step there, and we're going to have a group focused on, again, our culture, is to really be in discussions about what does it look like to live these values on our campus. That's going to be such a critical part of us moving forward. Next slide. I basically said most all of this. I want to thank Amy Morton and Wally Sobiejo for co-chairing the planning process, and now Rachel LeBlanc, who's heading our Office of Strategic Initiatives and University Analytics. She's leading the implementation and organizing all the teams and making sure that we're able to get investments done as needed and moving forward. So it's very exciting. So if you have questions, you can either reach out to Rachel, or there is, of course, an email, leadwithpurpose@wpi.edu. Feel free to reach out. Okay, and a couple of more things before we wrap up. There's a lot on this slide, but I'm gonna go through it quickly. So in addition to the strategic plan, we've got a campaign that we've just publicly launched. We've been talking about the campaign here before because it was in what's called the quiet phase or the leadership phase. And now we've gone public, and we did that at the board meeting in October. We had a big online splashy thing that we did to launch the campaign, and had hundreds and hundreds of people online doing that. And the reason we've gone public now is we've made really significant progress towards our goal, which is $500 million, $500 million. It's a combined goal of philanthropy and sponsored research, so research grants. So everybody on this campus is contributing to moving this forward. And you can see where we are in the bottom. You can see through the beginning of November, we've raised almost $360 million, or over $360 million, over $200 million in philanthropy, over $150 million in research. And so we are well on our way to meeting our campaign goals, and probably have 2 to 3 years ahead of us to make sure we meet those goals. As you look at the themes of the campaign, they're very aligned with the themes of the strategic plan, even though they aren't exactly the same, but they are very well aligned with our goals as a community. So first is about building our thriving community. So the Center for Wellbeing and DEI initiatives, things like that. Access and affordability, and continuing to increase scholarships. The amount of our student aid that comes from philanthropically supported scholarships is a bit small. We need to really be driving more support into scholarships and graduate fellowships. Things like our Great Minds Scholars programs and global projects for all of those things are part of the are part of the campaign. And again, with a goal to raise $100 million towards those things. You can see our status there. Next, our global reach, which is all about, again, we've got this great new school, the global school and the global lab and the project centers and the Center for Project-Based Learning, basically increasing our global reach around our distinctive project-based education. And lastly, purpose-driven education and research, which is about endowed professorships, endowed programs, or schools, and investing in our new academic building, our new academic facilities, other things like that. And of course, the funding being raised through grants in our research enterprise, which is why that one has such a big goal, because that whole research goal is subsumed under that, in addition to having philanthropic goals around education and research. So you can see we've got an ambitious agenda. And I know right now it feels like a tough time to be talking about raising money or talking about an ambitious agenda when it feels like, again, that ground beneath our feet is not solid. But together we will work through these things, and we need to continue to work to advance WPI around things like well-being, around things like diversity, equity, inclusion. This campaign is designed to help us move those same goals forward. And I will tell you, we have lots of folks who want to support us there. So I'm excited to spend some more of my time on this activity in the coming months and years. And then lastly, I'm not going to really talk about this. We've talked about it before, but we did have our Neche accreditation visit. Very, very important. And again, special thanks to Art Heinricher and Emily Perlow, who were the real leaders of that effort, and to everyone who worked on the report, who met with the committee, who participated in the process. It was so important. They are in the process of drafting their report and finalizing that. So it's not done yet. But I will say that we're looking very, very good on the to be reaccredited. I'm not worried about that at all. But the interesting thing to me is they kind of got us. I think that's really good. They talked about some strengths, and they talked about some concerns. And look at that top one: concerns, a culture that puts academic achievement above innovation and innovation above well-being. We're grappling with that right now, right? And they saw that when they were here. And so we've got to, and by the way, they say specifically in their report, like, this is not uncommon in higher ed. It's all over the place. We're not unique in this way. And so we're working through what we'll see what's in the final report, and then we'll be working on responding to that. But overall, it was a great process for us to reflect and look back, and then also look forward. So thanks to everyone who helped with that. And then just lastly, very quickly, I'll just say, actually, could you go back one more? Sorry. Class of 2026 is the other thing that's happening right now. We're in high season of recruiting, which is a challenging thing always, but we know we overshot a bit on our class this year. It's a large class. We're going to work to not have that happen this year. So our goal is significantly lower than the size of the class this year at 1,350 students, excellent and diverse students. We're doing great so far. Our first deadline just passed. We have a record number of applications over, as of this morning, it's over 6,100 students have applied to WPI so far. We're shooting for about just over 11,000 applications to get those 1,350 excellent and diverse students. So thanks again to our admissions team for all they're doing during these challenging times. And then as I close, I'll just say, again, gratitude. I talked about this some earlier, but I'm so thankful that we're all going to have a little bit of a break coming up here over the Thanksgiving holiday. And I hope everyone's going to take some downtime. And then I think we really need to pull together as a community through the mid-December, when we can send our students safely home, and again, take a bit of a breather between B and C term, and that we're continuing to move forward together in spite of these challenges. This community just never ceases to amaze me. I will tell you, I sat with students over the last 2 days in both in-person and virtual student office hours, and our students are resilient. They are incredible. They are committed. I met with a student at a project center today. They were calling me from Nantucket, and they were sitting outside and just having that extraordinary WPI experience you hope all of our students can have. And so I'm just thrilled to know that that's happening, and special thanks to the Global Projects Program who are making that happen for so many of our student teams this term. And hopefully, again, we'll keep it going in C&D term, getting back out there in the world. And our new building is going to be opening in January. It's on track, on schedule. I was in there with the trustees. It's gorgeous. It's going to be wonderful. So just ending with a ton of gratitude for all of you. I'm sorry we spoke for the whole hour, but it didn't look like we had too many questions, but I'm happy to take any that Kyle wants to share, or any that anybody else wants to type in.
Thank you, Lori. Just for the folks on YouTube, I'll give a quick recap. There was a question about vaccine mandates, and the answer is there's no news yet, but CERT is monitoring vaccine mandate. Booster mandates.
Booster mandate, right.
Sorry about that. CERT is monitoring CDC guidance closely. And another colleague asked about expanding employee assistance program services, and our colleagues in T&I are looking into that. And so there's one other question that might be for Dean Jean. Our colleague says, thank you for this primer on brain functioning. Can understanding what happens to depressed and stressed brains on a neuroscientific level improve outcomes? I'd love to see more educational offerings such as this.
Oh, great question. I love you already. We are trying to get a new hire in neuroscience and psychology that's happening right as we speak. We have a lot of candidates coming in. I have not seen the final list yet, but we will have somebody on campus doing education specifically on this. So we'll have a neuroscience. It's an interdisciplinary program, but we yet haven't had a neuroscientist in this cognitive and psych program. So we're getting one. And yes, how we think about it right now, the research is showing that obviously the combination of things, it's such a multifactorial problem and it's so complicated. So all of these different things coming together is how they come together, and they're different for everyone. So it's so individual, it's hard to have an answer, but to say that we understand and when these things come together in particular ways, and honestly, some of this research is just coming out from people going to war. So PTSD is one of the ways we study that quite a bit, because somebody goes to Afghanistan, comes back with PTSD. We're able to see the difference between people who went off and we have twin studies, people who went off to war as one twin and not the other. So the genetics are more or less the same, but the experiences are different. So there are lots of good ways we're studying that, but we're looking to have a professor just sort of focused on this. And we will be doing a lot of education. Our neuroscience program is brand new. So as we develop the neuroscience program here at WPI, we're hoping that there are many places and ways that you could do this. And if you have a student or you're staff and you want to just sit down and talk neuroscience to me anytime, so stop by my office. It's open. It's on Salisbury 121. So yeah, thank you for that question. And yes, we're trying to address it and by having more education for our students in terms of neuroscience and mental health disorders.
Yeah, it is one of those big mysteries, and so many of us have members of our own families who have struggled with mental health, maybe even ourselves, and we've struggled. And there, you know, as we all know, there is no one easy answer here, right? If there was, we would have done it by now. And so I know we're all grappling with, you know, what's the solution? And the answer is very much like our answers with COVID, which is there's no one thing. There's a whole set of layers of things that we at WPI can be doing, that we are doing already, and we know have worked well in the past. And we also know the world has shifted through the COVID pandemic for these young people very significantly. And so we've got to continue to help them pull themselves back from that and support them as they do it. And I know our students well enough to know that they'll come through.
Okay, thank you both. And I'll note that there was a lot of thanks and gratitude for the work of the Mental Health and Wellbeing Task Force in the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do want to say again, and I hope we said that, the team has been wonderful. There are 34 individuals. We can't thank them enough. The co-chairs, we can't thank them enough. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Are we good, Kyle?
All good, thank you.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and please hang in, have a very happy Thanksgiving, give good hugs to the family, and take some time for yourselves, and we're gonna come through this together. So as always, bye.